Look to the second Climate Jobs Justice Candidate Forum for the municipal elections coming up in October 5th or 6th. We have a full house here, folks from city council to school board to borough assembly. We'll get started here in a couple of seconds as more people are filing in. Thank you so much for spending your evenings with us, and we hope that you have a very thought-provoking and engaging time with us tonight.
Alyssa, would you like us to take it over from there?
We'd like to make sure that we first do a land acknowledgement and not only acknowledge, but express our continuous commitment to the Indigenous peoples of these lands. My name is Lutvaik Isen, or Ruth Miller in English. I was born and raised here in Digayakak in Anchorage, but my family is from the Lake Clark region, and I'm a climate justice organizer with Native Movement, supporting our partners in hosting this forum. And I'd like to bring us into a moment of appreciation and gratitude for the Lower Tanana Dene, the Indigenous peoples of Fairbanks and the lands that we're all caretakers of and guests to, and to express our eternal gratitude and our deference to their wisdom, to their leadership, since time immemorial and still today. So as we acknowledge the land, we also acknowledge the traditional stewards of that land and think about how we can be supporters, how we can be allies, how we can be committed to the protection and defense of the sacredness that has always been a part of these lands. So I want to say Chikanekali, thank you in my language to all of you for gathering here today and sharing this mutual commitment to making our community stronger and better, to bringing us back towards that community harmony. And I'm really excited to be a part of this conversation and to witness the discussion here today. So in your own way, please take a moment to acknowledge the stewards of these lands and to think about what actions you can take to support the tribal sovereignty of Indigenous peoples of Alaska. Chikanekali.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ruth, for that moment. It's really important to remember why we're all gathered here, and what we're wanting to do and envision for our futures here together. I'm going to go into a little bit of the context as to the Climate Jobs and Justice Candidate Forum. We did this the first time last year with a full packed house of 18 candidates. It was packed from electeds to community members in the JP Jones Center. And it was really the first time that we had ever done something like that. The reason and the intention of why we wanted to do this is because we wanted to create a platform where we're asking really pertinent questions to the communities, and really getting the answers around climate action, around equity, around justice and worker advocacy, all things that affect and will advance everything that we're working on together. We had amazing turnout, to amazing questions, to amazing partnerships, and we're hoping to continue that tradition this year, especially virtually. So we're really excited that this is a little bit more accessible in a little bit of ways. If you can be in your homes and still get sort of that same level of engagement and thought-provokingness that preceded last year. I want to take a moment to thank our partners that we are doing it with this year. We have myself, I am Alyssa Quinton. I am a community organizer here with the Alaska Center. We have folks here with Planned Parenthood Votes Northwest and Hawaii. We have folks here from Native Movement, Alaska Public Interest Research Group, Native Peoples Action, Fairbanks Climate Action Coalition, the Nanac Diversity and Action Center, and NAACP Fairbanks Chapter 101. So I wanted to bring them into the space. Thank you so much for all of the work and dedication that all of us put in to be able to put on this event and get these questions and get all of these lovely candidates here with us tonight. So with pretty much that, I say let's go ahead and get started. We're going to go into essentially lay of the land. We'll have some introductions. We'll play our favorite game, green card, red card, and we'll get into diving deep with some long response questions for all of you watching. But let's go ahead and introduce our lovely moderators. I want to introduce Andrea Quinton, and just thank you for being able to moderate the session with us here tonight.
You're welcome. What would you like to know about me? Questions? I am Andrea Quinton. I have been in Fairbanks for about 20 years, so I'm almost a sourdough. I am an investigator with the state of Alaska. If you didn't know or you couldn't tell, Alyssa Quinton is my daughter. We've been active in and out of the community for several years, and I am happy to be a part of this. I'll turn it over to Alex.
Hi, everyone. I'm Alex Hirsch, and I'm a professor in the Department of Political Science at UAF. And this is my second year co-moderating this particular forum. It's a great honor to be here, and I look forward to hearing some of your responses.
Awesome. Well, now that we are acquainted, I'm going to head and step into the background. I'll be keeping time. So candidates, look over here, wherever I show up on your screen, you'll be seeing the time circles, and it'll flash when your time is up. And with that, our moderators can take it away. Thanks again to our candidates for coming and our moderators for guiding us through this night.
Thanks so much, Alyssa. So the format for this evening will be as follows. We're going to begin, as Alyssa mentioned, with some candidate introductions, and each of you will have roughly 30 seconds. We'll call on you. Andrea and I will call on you, and you can have 30 seconds to just talk about who you are, what seat you're running for, perhaps what your elevator pitch level, 30-second level information that you want to convey. After the introduction period, we're going to move on to green card, red card. Hopefully all the candidates have at least a red and green object that they can hold up, Chuck. And these will be yes or no questions, right? Binary questions. We know that all of you are thoughtful people, and you have, of course, complicated answers to all these questions. Really, all we're looking for in this first phase of the questioning is just a yes or no answer. And then once we get to the long response section of the evening, you'll have every opportunity to go on at length and speak in layered and complex ways. And so after that long response period, we'll have closing remarks from all of the candidates. That's our format for this evening. Perhaps we could begin, Andrea, with some introductions. Sue Sprinkle, I just have you here listed first. You're running for city council, is that right?
I am. I'm a first-time candidate, so this is a new territory for me, and I'm nervous and I'm excited, and I feel this is, the year 2020. Everything's nutty, so I'm just going for it. I live and work downtown. I have a small business of my own, and I've been involved with a lot of volunteering, committees, board work. So I feel like I've done really well as a team member, and I want to graduate up to the next level, which is public service. And I think I'm ready to take this on. So city council seat E is what I'm headed for. So thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Let's jump over to Charles Foster.
Hello, everyone. I'm Charles Foster III, version 3.0. And the phone goes off. Thank you very much. Anyways, where was I? Running for city council, seat F. I have a degree in mechanical engineering technology, so math I'm not afraid of. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you so much. And also running for city council, Montine Jackson.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Montine Jackson, and I am a native of Fairbanks, and I'm running for City Council seat F. I believe that our city council should be should have a strong cross-representation of our community. City council members should be able to connect with all members of our community, from the military to indigenous populations, the elderly, the young, etc. I have vast experience in our community, and I look forward to serving. I'm eager to serve, and I hope and look forward to your support in the upcoming election for my candidacy and City Council Seat F. Thank you.
Thank you, Montine. So David Vandenberg, let's hear from you.
Thank you. My name is David Vandenberg. I'm a candidate for City Council Seat F. I've lived in Fairbanks for 30 years and live in Island Homes right now. And for the last decade, I've worked downtown at the Downtown Association of Fairbanks. And in that time, the things I've come to believe is that I've got a lot of experience with City Council and how it works. And we've, I believe that a lot of the services that downtown needs, the whole community needs, and that really, if you want to talk about equality and access, really, city services have got to be a big bridge towards connecting people in this community. So, I'm a cisgender male, and again, I've been here for 30 years, and I've been actively involved in city council issues for over a decade, and I'm anxious or excited and looking forward to a chance to serve this community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. And now moving on to Borough Assembly races. Donald Crocker, would you mind introducing yourself first?
Yes, thank you, Alex. And I'd like to thank all the partner organizations that invited us here a chance to speak. And also thanks to those watching from the safety of your home or wherever you may be for engaging in local politics and engaging in local government. My name is Donald Crocker. I'm running for Borough Assembly Seat D. I've been a community leader and organizer for 10 years in the Fairbanks North Star Borough. I've decided to run because as we're moving through this pandemic and into a post-pandemic economy, there's going to be some really tough decisions that need to be made. We're going to be working with a limited budget, but I want to ensure that there's a voice on the Borough Assembly that's new, that has creative ideas, and is interested in creative partnerships to ensure that essential services are met, and that we as a Borough Assembly are meeting all of our residents where they're at, and ensuring that we're serving all residents of the Fairbanks North Star Borough. And so thank you so much.
Thank you. And also for Borough Assembly Seat D, we have Chris Ludke. Chris, are you with us?
Okay. Hi. Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm running for Seat D. I've been in Fairbanks since 2011. I work up at Fort Knox as a blaster. Been doing that for a few years. I am running. The short answer would be to end theft. I'm getting frustrated with every level of government. The borough isn't all that bad, but they still do participate in theft, in my opinion. And negative rights is also a big issue with me, and I would like to see that at the forefront of any political discussion. And I would not compromise any of those values or principles. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Sean Tackey, you're next.
Hi, thank you, Alex. My name is Sean Tackey. I'm born and raised here in Fairbanks, Alaska. Grew up, went to Denali, Ryan Middle School, West Valley, and then got my degrees from UAF. I have two sons, one that's 8 and one that's 5. One just went into kindergarten, one that's in 3rd grade with Brandon's son as well. I've served on the assembly for 3 years before. I ran for re-election last year and lost. So I'm really excited to get back on it. I know what it takes to do the job. I'm excited to be a representative for the people, listen to all views that come across the assembly, use my business knowledge from having worked at Fort Knox as well, much like Chris. I've been a financial planning and analysis accountant in that department. And then I went into my own business, and I'm a small entrepreneur that's trying to grow a business here in Alaska. So I know what it takes to make the hard decisions sometimes to say, no, we can't spend on this. But a lot of times there's things that people might think are wants, really are necessities, and they're not as frivolous as someone might think. So making sure that we maintain the appropriate services and be able to represent our community and make sure we have educated populace. Thanks.
Thank you. And for seat H, Ryan Vandering. I might be pronouncing that wrong, so correct me.
No worries. It's Van Reenen, and you wouldn't be the first to pronounce that, have trouble pronouncing that. Thank you for having me. I am running for Borough Assembly Seat H. My pronouns are him, he. I am a lifelong resident of Fairbanks. I come from a small business and commercial construction background. I'm also a husband and a father to an 11-year-old and a 4-month-old. I'm running for Borough Assembly because our local government is out of ideas. The ideas it does have anymore seem to mirror the chaos that comes out of Juneau. And the solutions they have seem to be on the backs of our educators, our students, and our underserved community. I think we need to be creative, innovative, and bold. Our local government's lacking that at present. We need to work toward building an economy that leaves no one behind, and we need to be a voice for marginalized people. That's why I'm running.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on now to Fairbanks North Star School Board. Tim Duran, I see you. Would you mind introducing you?
Sure. Thank you very much to everyone who helped organize tonight, and for all the candidates who are running for community office. I think it's a great tribute to our community. I'm Tim Doran. I've had almost 40 years of experience in education, and that's what I am, and I'm an educator, a listener and a learner. I've worked in the books. I've worked here in town, most recently as principal of Denali Elementary School, where I was for 23 years. When I retired, I said, what am I going to do? And how can I use what I've been taught by students, by parents, by staff members, teachers. And my wife and I did a stint overseas with the Peace Corps, working in education, came back, and I said, how can I contribute to the community? And that's really why I'm running for school board. It'll be my second term. I hope I am reelected. I've learned a lot and over these last 3 years. And we have some major issues ahead of us. The least of which is right now the pandemic issue and why we're doing this in Zoom rather than as last year. So I'm looking to take my experience, my practical experience on the front line, as well as the broader perspectives that I've gained on state and national organizations, internationally, and most importantly, what is here in Fairbanks, working with our families, working with our kids, and watching them grow up in our community. So it's a piece that I feel that I can bring to the table, be part of that conversation, and help to draw the best out of everybody as we listen and try and make those decisions for our children. And as of this month, we have 4 grandchildren who will be coming through the system. Both our daughters graduated through the district. And so I look forward to continuing that commitment to education.
Thank you. So we're going to go over to Jeffrey Rensell.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think Jeffrey Rensel is on right now. Jeffrey, are you there?
I don't see him. Okay. Alex, do you want to take over to seat F then?
Sure. Gregory Cahill, correct me if I'm wrong. I hope that that's pronounced correctly, Greg.
That's perfect, Alex. It's Greg Cahill. So my name is Greg Cahill, and I'm running for school board seat F because I think our students deserve a great education. My growth as an educator has been me continually changing, challenging myself to do the best for my students and our community. And right now we see struggles. Our district is really struggling in its attempt to improve learning outcomes for students. We saw that last night at the school district board meeting and continuing on. And I feel as though I'm in a unique position to help. I'm a parent. Both my kids graduated from the district, from West Valley High School. I have over 25 years teaching experience at West Valley High School and at Monroe Catholic High School. At UAF, I'm an assistant professor in the School of Education. I read research and I'm using it to improve outcomes for the next generation of teachers. Now, Alex, Alyssa had asked us to come up with some great thing that we've done during COVID for this introduction. And so I just wanted to point out that one of the great things I've done during COVID is to sign up and run for school board seat F. So thank you.
There you go. All right, and we're going to go to Brianna Gray. And as Greg mentioned, Brianna, part of your response would be, what is one of the positive things you saw, did, or learned during this pandemic?
Thank you. Thank you to everyone who has contributed to this forum. My name is Brianna Gray, and I'm running for school board seat F. My grandparents are the late Lydia and Ernest William Mack of King Cove. My parents are Doreen Bunch Mack of North Pole and Lavelle Webb of Seattle. One positive thing that I've seen during this pandemic includes people turning to our land for comfort and well-being. I'm seeing more people out berry picking, fishing, and I think that is a beautiful thing to see. I'm born and raised in Alaska. I graduated from West Valley High School and then intentionally went to UAF, where I received my undergrad in applied business management and rural development. I have my master's in human resources and leadership, and I'm currently in a dissertation process for my PhD in organizational psychology. I have 2 children in the school district, and I think that I provide a unique point of view as a student coming out of the school district, intentionally choosing to go to college here and staying here to work, as well as being a mother. I have national and local level board experience. I have budgeting experience with over $30 million worth of funds. I was a previous economic development specialist, grant writer, and community planner. And I really look forward to this forum. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Sean Rice.
All right, thank you very much. Wow, even though I go through these things, I always get nervous. So one thing, my name is Sean Rice. I'm running for school board seat F. I've been on the board for 12 years. And when this pandemic first came out, I was kind of on the border of whether I wanted to run again or not. One of the things that I wanted to do was make sure that I ran one more time to give this board consistency. With 12 years of experience, I want to be able to give that during this pandemic and after the pandemic. One of the things you were talking about, you know, something positive about throughout this COVID thing is I work for the City of Fairbanks Public Works Department. I'm the labor supervisor over there. I just got done with my thyroid cancer and everything else. One of the things that was offered to me was to be able to work from home. I chose not to do that. I chose to go out and work with my guys because I wouldn't be any kind of a leader if I sent my guys to go out and do things that I wouldn't do myself. Now, I make sure that my guys are always masked up, gloved up, and make sure that we have all our hand sanitizers. So one of the things that I try to do is I try to lead by example. When they're out there raking asphalt, I'm raking asphalt with them. When they're throwing garbage, I'm throwing garbage with them. And that's what I plan to do whenever I'm on the school board. That's the way I was raised. Because the easy thing to do is just go ahead and let someone else handle this pandemic through the school district. The hard thing is going to sit there and continue on with what we are doing and making sure that we follow through with what we're supposed to do, and that's to educate our children. Don't think twice, vote for Rice.
Thank you, Sean. And for seat G, Brandon Boylan.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. My name is Brandon Boylan, and I'm running for school board seat G. I'd like to thank the Alaska Center and its partners for hosting this event and for inviting all of us candidates to talk about our views and values related to our community. And I'd like to thank Andrea and Alex for moderating tonight. I'm an educator. I'm a professor in the political science department at UAF, and I also direct the Arctic and Northern Studies program at UAF. I have a good deal of curriculum development experience, policy analysis, managing budgets, working with a range of people, including students. All that expertise I hope to bring to the school board this year. I have an 8-year-old son who is in the district. He's at Wood River. He's in 3rd grade. I'm running on behalf of him and all of his peers across our district. And I'll just say that, you know, despite the pandemic and despite the logistical challenges and parental concerns, I'm very proud of the way that our teachers have responded to the change and from my perspective have transitioned pretty well to a different kind of school year. And I'd like to just kind of give a shout out to the teachers and support staff and administrators that got this year started regardless of the challenges. So thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I think that's all of the introductions, which means that we're now going to move into the red card, green card portion of the evening. So Andrea and I are going to run through about 15 questions. All of you who have your cameras on, you all have a red card and a green card. Red card is going to signal no is your answer. Green card is going to signal yes. It looks like some folks have yes and no as opposed to red or green. I think that's fine. Just so we're all on board with, you know, what signal means what. For Chris Lutke, you're on the phone, correct me if I'm wrong. So what that'll mean, Chris, is that if you don't mind, could you just vocally express yourself? Could you say yes or no in response to these questions? Since you're the only one on the phone, no one will be confused about who it is who's speaking when that happens. Is that okay with you, Chris?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, great. All right, terrific. Andrea, would you like to ask the first question?
I would, thank you. So what we're looking for here is just your instinctual answers. So let's jump in and have some fun. First question, do you acknowledge the science behind climate change and that human activities are the main cause?
No.
Okay, great. Question number 2. Do you believe people should wear masks to help slow the spread of COVID-19?
No.
All right, everyone voted? All right, number 3. A just transition is a framework for a fair shift to an economy that is ecologically sustainable, equitable, and just for all Alaskans. Would you support such a movement in the interior?
No.
Could you repeat the question?
Okay. A just transition is a framework for a fair shift to an economy that is ecologically sustainable, equitable, and just for all Alaskans. Would you support such a movement in the interior? Great.
Thank you very much. Question number 4. Would you support and implement a land acknowledgement at the opening of meetings at your elected offices?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Next question. Do you support policies that allow healthcare providers, hospitals, pharmacies, or individuals to refuse to provide legal medical services based on personal beliefs?
Yes.
I'm sorry, what was the question again?
Okay. Do you support policies that allow healthcare providers, such as hospitals, pharmacies, or individuals, to refuse to provide legal medical services based on personal beliefs? Great.
Okay, great. Next question. Yes or no, do you support anti-transgender policies, such as ones requiring people to use the bathroom that matches the sex listed on their birth certificate?
No.
Okay, moving on. Next question. Do you support Alaska Native hunting and fishing rights and land, water, and resource sovereignties?
Yes.
Okay, looks like everyone's voted.
Okay, halfway through, here's question number 8. In your office, will you actively work on policies that directly or indirectly address the causes and outcomes of murdered and missing Indigenous women and girls and Two-Spirit people?
Yes.
All right, moving on to the next question. Do you believe that those living with addiction should receive mental health services prioritized before incarceration?
Yes.
Okay. Would you, in your elected office, allocate funds to support projects and initiatives that address the root causes of suicide?
No.
Okay, everyone else ready? Okay. Do you think that access to clean water and clean air are human rights?
No.
Okay, question number 12. Do you support the right of Alaskan workers to organize and join a union?
Yes.
Okay. In your elected office, will you support policies that provide protections for your LGBTQ plus coworkers and community?
No.
Okay, the penultimate question. Do you support the Black Lives Matter movement?
No.
Right, and for the final question, this is a long question, so if I need to, I'll repeat it. Here we go. The Juneau Assembly just passed an ordinance requiring the creation of a systemic racism review committee. The committee will review legislation that comes before the Assembly to make sure it does not perpetuate discrimination or equality in the community. Would you support or champion an effort to do something similar as an elected official?
No.
Okay, so that ends the end of our rapid fire questions. Alex?
Thanks so much, Andrea. Okay, so we're moving now into the third phase of the forum, and this is your chance to give longer responses and to explain your position. Why don't we start? We're going to bounce around from City Council to Borough Assembly to School Board to give everyone a kind of opportunity to weigh in at different times. Perhaps I'll start with a City Council question. Each candidate will have 3 minutes, right, Alyssa? Yeah, 3 minutes max for each of these questions. Okay, so I'll state the question and then I'll call on each City Council candidate who is present to deliver a response in turn. So here's your question. Once in office, what will be your approach to address the inequalities and support our service workers, small businesses, and local economies amid the COVID-19 pandemic? And Alyssa is going to copy and paste that, looks like, right into the chat, which is great. So it's there for your reference. I'm going to start just with Sue Sprinkle.
Let's see here. I'm just kind of reviewing the question again here. Should address the inequalities of service workers. I have to say overall, I think that the city has done a really good job with regards to the pandemic in as far as they were quick to ask for people to mask up, which I thought was good. And I also appreciated that we, as a borough city partnership, worked together to share that message, although we couldn't hold a mandate, I think by law. The two mayors worked hand in hand to not only push for the mandate of the the masking, they also worked hard to get the Carlson Center set up to be an overflow hospital if needed. I am worried about our local businesses that are doing things like, the restaurants and the bars, those places, the gathering places, the performing arts centers, the people who can't get together in closed spaces are a real concern to me. I'm so happy that the city put together their AK Cares grant. They've sent a lot of money out the door for families and for businesses, and I know that they're starting a second round. I'm very worried about the tourism businesses that are being affected. That some of this money's going to run out, and we can only hope that this will start to correct itself next year, I guess, is our best. But as far as the local economies go, as long as we can support ourselves locally, I make sure I go to a restaurant a week. I make takeout happen. I have friends that we do as a group, what we can do for keeping money local, that dollar spends a couple times. As long as we can continue pushing through what we have here to share our pain, maybe locally, maybe that will help us float our boats. But as far as taking on an office, I hope that we can continue to put more money into our local economy. I think that's how we are going to make this happen. But I sure want to listen to the science. I think the science is going to help us get through this COVID faster than non-science. So I'll end it that way. I'm going to fall on the side of science.
Thank you very much. Chuck Foster, same question.
Oh man, I don't think I can go 3 minutes though. So kudos, Sue, on going that long. But no, currently what pops in my mind right now, and I do agree with the science, is the expeditious distribution of the CARES Act money that has been bestowed upon the council. I admire them for being so quick about that, and the just distribution to us as best as they can. That's all that pops in my mind at the moment. Thank you.
Very much, Chuck. Moving along now to Montine Jackson.
I think one of my first responsibilities would be to review what the city council before me has put in place, what was our strategies and our framework for initial response, and my understanding, my review, my feedback that I've received from other Fairbanksans, it's been very good. I would be hopeful and that there would be a secondary plan being looked at or already in place for how we move forward for the next wave, perhaps, of CARES Act funding. I'm not clear on what and how our outreach efforts have been toward the homeless populations, the elderly, how effective that whole plan has been. So I'd be very interested in following up to see, are we meeting all the needs of our whole community and in response to the pandemic? So being mindful that it's not going to end just because a vaccine is available, that we need to look beyond a vaccine, how we come out on the other side. What's going to be our plans as we continue to move forward? And also looking at small business and industry, taking a look at tourism and seeing what we could do to support them with e-commerce, looking at other ways of garnering revenue and funding to sustain them. And again, looking at ways that we can uplift our community as a whole. Thank you.
Thanks very much. And last but not least, David Vandenberg. Same question. Okay,
thank you. I want to start by saying that the city of Fairbanks, it has a scope, right? It has a city charter, and in that charter, there are responsibilities and obligations that the city has as a local government. And I think they're really important to our quality of life. It's things like snow removal on sidewalks, snow removal on streets, or the opposite, as we've seen in some instances where it doesn't get removed. It's emergency services, it's the building department, trash collection, and there is partnership that the city has with a homelessness coordinator. You may have noticed in the last round, the lightning round, I turned I gave a bunch of maybe answers, because it's, as much of what is the scope of city council, that's really more what I was trying to answer from. What's their scope? So I think what the city, what I would do in office, my approach would be to make sure that the city of Fairbanks really sticks to its knitting and provides the services that it provides, so that people aren't left behind. And I'd mentioned earlier my experiences downtown, but there's sidewalks downtown, accessibility for lots of low-income housing, and those sidewalks are not cleared a lot of the time, much of the time. Crosswalks. 2 winters ago, we had 80 days where there was no snowplow downtown. Now, I'm an advocate for city services, so that the city has the resources it needs to be competent and to do what people need and expect. And I think that that's a way to take care of the community, is to make sure that that the city is able to do what it needs to do. And I think that we're not talking about it yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's going to be a bit of a revenue shock, where the city's not going to be able to collect its budgeted, or forecasted amounts of property taxes, and the city's going to be under real strain to do what its chartered responsibilities are. So I think we got to be, keep our expectations in check. But the city of Fairbanks is a big tent. It does have quite a bit of scope. And I would want to see the city do everything it can, but the main effort is doing what its chartered obligations are. And as to COVID, I totally believe in the mask up with Matherly. I think that if we ever needed to go backwards and reclose our economy, that's a real problem, big problem. So what I would do is work as much on the ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Andrea, over to you.
So we're going to jump around, as Alex said. The next set of questions, or the next question, will be geared towards the school board. And so that question reads, how would you work to incorporate Alaska Native educational priorities, such as comprehensive histories, language, and cultural awareness, into public education systems for all students? So from the school board, let's start with Greg Cohen.
Thank you, Andrea. As an educator for the last 25 years, those of you in the audience who've been my students know that I look at our students. I look at my students first, and I'm thinking about the student as a whole person. I'm not dividing students into categories or groups, but certainly I think Alaskan education is extremely important. We've had some great Alaska Native leaders that carried the tradition of Alaska Native values through from time immemorial. Those are the people that we need to appreciate in our curriculum and continue to study the gains that they've made. Is it going to be a curriculum that's entirely focused on one set of values or one group of people? No. Again, I believe that if we have a history curriculum, it needs to be an inclusive history curriculum that talks about the problems that humans have faced, and get this, the problems that humans have overcome. This is really what I think our students appreciate and are going to embrace if they start thinking about the positive aspects of what we've done over the years, the way that people are working together, the gains that people have made. I certainly support education that includes all of our students. And I don't know if I answered everything I wanted to in that answer, but I think that those of you in the audience who know me, you get my gist. You understand that I care about the student and I care about including all of us in this education for a better future. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let's move over to Jeffrey Renzel.
And I don't think he's here.
Did we say he was not here? Yes, we did. Thank you. Sean Rice. Sean?
Sorry, I was having trouble with my mute button.
Okay,
I guess the computer didn't want me to talk. First of all, being an Alaska Native, this is one of the areas that really I really support. One thing that I really enjoy is Yada Bay Evans down at the A&E Center. But it's not only just that. The center is open for all of the students to be able to go in and start learning. One thing that we need to do is make sure that it is aware for people to go in. Also, as one of the things for the Alaska Native educational priorities is we need to recognize which group of natives that we are totally expressing that we are going to educate ourselves on. There are a great deal of different, not just Native people within the community, but also the different villages as well too. So we have to take that into consideration and make sure that we are making them all inclusive into our educational system and their history and their backgrounds. One of the things that I did last year when we were at the National School Board Association was I was bringing up, not just for Alaska Native education, but also for American Indian education, is we need to ensure that whenever we have our children come into our schools, that we are also treating them when they're coming from the villages or the reservations, that we are also treating them with English language learner. A lot of these children who come to our schools, English is not their first language. Their native language is their first language. And we need to be able to give the same conduct that we would from someone else coming from a different country to help these children understand and learn what we are doing here in our school district. A lot of the times, a lot of the educators sit there and go, they just don't get it. No, the children get the education and they're also learning the English language as well too. So one thing that we need to do is make sure that whenever we are doing this, we are making sure that we are inclusive with everyone, not just the non-natives, but who are trying to learn our culture, but within the people, but for the students as well too. Sorry, I see a little wrap it up, sorry. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sean. Tim Doran, how would you like to respond?
I keep going back, actually 45 years ago this week. I landed in Caltag, an Athabascan village on the banks of the Yukon River, Middle Yukon, and I had grown up in New York City. And so I was a city boy. But that was really my first opportunity living in Alaska, living in a Alaska Native community. And the way they welcomed me, the way they taught me, I was there for 2 years. And then subsequently, myself and my family, we've spent about 12 years in villages, and every one, I have to say, was really, really good. And they were patient with me, and it's just been, it was a great thing, and for our girls to be born in the villages and to begin their lives there. Taking that into current day, at Denali, one of the things we have a totem pole. We have a school story that was given to us by Bert Ryan, love, kindness, and respect. The students tell Panther, Panther tells Raven, Raven flies and tells the community, goes around the country and the world. As new children come from the universe, they continue that story, that circle. So it permeates a lot of what we do. What I have been really pleased with over the decades, not only have I taught Alaska culture and Alaska studies, which really was a learning process. I didn't know it until the students told me, families told me. But we have that through our curriculum. I think one of the things as a board member is to make sure that we continue to have that as part of integrated across the grades, that we welcome every child who comes in the door. And very often parents may think, oh, this is not my culture, this is something else. We have to make sure people feel welcome here. And so I think that's a key piece of this question. The main thing is to be respectful of the Alaska Native culture, the history that's here, what it has contributed to the rest of us who have come in, that we are sharing, and I think to look at the commonality of values that are there. When we were in Palau in the Western Pacific, we learned a lot about indigenous pieces, and what was absolutely fascinating is they have maintained their culture through 4 colonizations. How much we could relate to in our experiences in villages here in Alaska about the Alaska Native cultures. And so I think that commonality is also helpful in broadening out understanding across the board, and I'm learning. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Brianna.
Hi, everybody. So I am a proud Indigenous woman from a village. So I traveled from a village to Anchorage, and that was a huge culture shock to me. Many of the staff and many of the educators didn't really understand my way of living. And so it was really difficult for them to find ways to help me learn. And I think right now, I know, it's really time for us to really prioritize our functional learning into our curriculum, including Alaska Native culture. It is time to really be purposeful in our decision-making when it comes to the curriculum. And we really have the opportunity to really blaze this trail for really reimagining what qualifies as a valuable knowledge. We have the opportunity to shift how our community imagines, how we problem solve, how we heal, and how we connect through education. When learning is structured around our lived experiences and our current needs, we can not only develop the content knowledge and the skills, but also how to care about one another, learn about one another. There's so many positives to incorporating Alaska Native culture that are directly impacting our communities, because it really equips our students and educators to, how can we collaboratively face the world that we are inheriting? And representation matters. It truly matters. When our curriculum can serve as a mirror, and it reflects individuals and their experiences and their ways of life, we are creating a curriculum that serves as a window when it introduces and provides those opportunities to understand those experiences and perspectives. And I'd like to provide a little example as to why representation matters. I was recently reading a story, and a little girl stopped me and said, "Ma'am, what is that on your face?" And before I started the story, many of the students weren't really wanting to be there. They weren't really being engaged. And I explained to her, "I'm Alaska Native, and this is what this stands for." And she goes, "Oh, I'm Alaska Native." And she was so shy at first, and then she was smiling and she was engaged. And I had to take a few deep breaths, because just that connection, and now she's willing to pay attention. Now she's willing to engage because she sees someone on the opposite side of her showing her that I am loud, I am proud, and I am here to read this story to you. Let's get excited about it. That's powerful. And that is what we need to do. We need to not only acknowledge Alaska Native culture and every other culture, we need to also celebrate it. We need to incorporate it. And that is what's going to be key within our school district. Our schools are on Alaska Native lands. We need to respect and celebrate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Brianna. Now, Brandon, let's hear from you.
Thank you so much. This is a very important question, Alaska Native education as reflected in the curriculum and the staffing in the school district. You know, we have a sizable percentage of our student body in the district that is Alaska Native. And I think we need to have an educational curriculum that is very relevant to the state of Alaska and to all students, including Alaskan Native students. I think it's important. I think representation is important. I think Alaska Native students need to see themselves reflected in the curriculum and reflected in the teachers and the support staff and the administrators like principals in the school district. We have a diverse range of students and they should be represented in the curriculum. And we don't have to do it alone. You know, Fairbanks has so many resources to help the school district and the school board. We have the Tanana Chiefs Conference. We have the Fairbanks Native Association. We have Doyon. There's a lot of expertise that we could harness, that we could use to develop a curriculum in a thoughtful way that's very relevant for our Alaska Native students. I agree that we should support ESL programs. And I would say all of this is important, not just for Alaska Native students themselves, but for all students, non-Alaska Native students too. I mean, the history and the issues and the values related to Alaska Native students should be learned and should be taught, learned by our students and taught by our educators in the district, because it all relates to Alaska. So yeah, thank you for that question.
You're welcome. Alex?
Okay, thanks, Andrea. All right, this next question is for Borough Assembly. Many solutions exist to curb greenhouse gas emissions, including reducing food waste, increasing energy efficiency, building more walkable cities, using clean renewable energy, and more. If elected, what solutions to limit greenhouse gas emissions would you support and advocate for, specifically in light of how they may create local jobs, advance social equity, and improve community health? And let's start with Donald Crocker.
Thank you so much for the question, Alex. This is a really important question because, you know, as we're in the middle of a pandemic, and we're in the middle of a reckoning of systemic racism in our country, we're also in the middle of a climate crisis. And I think a lot of times in the recent months that has been pushed to the back, but it is still very present. There is a lot of different solutions that we can make, even with the relatively limited powers that the borough has. What we really need is a climate action plan. I want to celebrate Assembly Member Sanford and Williams for getting that started. They worked hard along with SBAC to get a resolution passed to create a joint climate change task force. Unfortunately, that climate change task force has stopped meeting. And that is an absolute shame because climate change has not stopped. It was listed as a non-essential task force. That climate change task force needs to be reinstated and start meeting again. From what I understand, there is some issues in terms of finding funding for the action plan to be created. So what I would want to do when elected is begin exploring in collaboration, not only with the members of the task force and Mayor Ward, but also with the city councils, the school board, and nonprofits to ensure that we can find that funding to ensure that that task force occurs and starts. The fact of the matter is that it is also an economic driver. If we look at recent work from Moody's, they have been willing to improve or increase the credit rating for boroughs and municipalities that have a climate action plan in place. And so that in turn would help reduce our interest rates on things like school bonds. So what we need is a plan, because when it comes down to decisions by the borough, all decisions by the borough are essentially environmentally based or affected decisions. Things like solid waste disposal. You mentioned, things like the making more cities more walkable, right? Or the beautification of parks and recreation, property usage, land zoning. All of these are environmental decisions, and we need a plan in place so that we can, so that we are making environmentally conscious decisions. Thank you.
Thanks, Donald. And on the phone, we have Chris Ludke. Same question.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing we could do to improve air quality and just overall economic standing for all residents is encourage private companies to maybe start a nuclear plant up here. That is a truly clean energy source. It is cheap and it would provide jobs, well-paying jobs, not just to construct it, but to continually run it. I think if electricity was cheaper, that automatically boosts business wealth and sustainability in terms of keeping your doors open. Small businesses oftentimes live month to month. I'm not a business owner, but I understand that part of it. So nuclear power would not only clean the air, but boost the wealth of everyone in this community. I think that's a huge issue that the borough could push for. They wouldn't necessarily fund it or own it in any way. The taxpayers wouldn't be involved. But I think a private company coming up here and starting a nuclear plant would be huge.
Thank you very much. Let's move over to Ryan Van Riemen.
So I come from, first of all, I totally agree with Donald. It's time to restart the climate change task force. But I also want to say that small business background that I come from has to do with subcontracting and construction. I have poured over thousands of pages of plans put out by the borough. The borough is on the right track when it comes to specifying some aspects of energy efficiency in public works projects like school renovations. They spec windows and doors in particular that require the best energy efficiency ratings. But I think one thing the borough can do to step their game up when it comes to the public solicitation process for both new projects, new construction projects, and renovations to existing facilities is require that a certain amount of the energy consumption used by the finished product come from renewables in order to offset the use of fossil fuels. Now, we are, they call us the land of the midnight sun. There's no reason that our public facilities, our schools can't have power, some power generated by solar power, by solar panels. I also think that we need to look at this is a tricky needle to thread, because I believe in personal individual property rights. But when the borough sells land to property developers for commercial property developers, whether they're going to use it for commercial or residential use, it might not be a bad idea for the borough to be able to have an expectation for the, whether it's an apartment complex, a strip mall, or some other facility to use renewables in some, at least some of its energy consumption. I think we can build an economy that is centered around renewable energy. Another thing we need to do is we need to, in 2018, we ceded our ability to deal with our PM 2.5 problem to the state, and the state has done less to correct it than we have. That's only going to bring the federal government in to deal with the problem. So, I mean, the people who spearheaded this effort may have had, I don't know, good intentions maybe, but the federal government's going to be the one that has to step in and deal with it.
Sorry, Ryan, I'm gonna have to cut you off there. I do apologize.
No worries, yeah.
I do apologize. Hopefully, we will have a closing period at the end where you'll have an opportunity to elaborate, hopefully, on that comment. And hopefully, folks are interested in hearing that subject. They should feel free to reach out to you if you're comfortable with that. I do want to get to Sean Tackey, our last North Star Borough Assembly candidate for CE. Sean Tackey, would you like to address the same question?
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Alex, for asking that question. There's a lot of different ways that the borough has been able to try and do their part in curbing greenhouse gas emissions. They've implemented the Interior Gas Utility Board, trying to switch people over from diesel and wood burning to heat their homes and using natural gas instead of using diesel fuel, which would reduce the carbon emissions. Also, we've passed certain ordinances allowing for community gardens. So basically getting people more involved in growing their own food, possibly even like canning it and keeping it so that way there's less food having to be brought in. You're also more self-sufficient. Working closely with the, well, obviously the task force, the climate task force was something that needs to be re-put in place. I was part of that. I voted for it when I was on the assembly. But then also working with the Fairbanks Climate Action Coalition, they have some pretty decent ideas on how to reduce our carbon emissions. And so taking in their inputs on how we can do that. Also, when I was on the Borough Assembly, you get appointed to certain committees. One of the very important ones is what was previously FMATS. It's now the FAST Planning, the Fairbanks Area Surface Transportation Planning Committee. You get to implement, get to choose how certain funds are going to be able to be spent on either road work or on sidewalks and walkways. And so making our city more walkable, making it more accessible to handicapped folks, even making it more accessible during wintertime when people have fat tire bikes and stuff, you'll be able to reduce emissions by utilizing less vehicles and making everything be more locally accessible. And so I'd be looking forward to those three main ways in which we can continue to limit those greenhouse gas emissions and also make ourselves a little more self-sustainable. Thanks.
Terrific. Thank you all very much. Andrea, over to you.
Okay, so we're going to go back to City Council now. Thank you for being patient. This is your final question. One of the City Council's functions is working in collaboration with FPD and the Police Oversight Board on budgeting, training, demographics, and police violence. Given the growing awareness of racial bias and police violence, how will you reallocate funds to prioritize de-escalation training and community safety initiatives while ensuring transparent and representative oversight for our communities and first responders? So first, let's go to Montine.
I think it's going to be extremely important now that we are in need in our community of hiring a new police chief to make sure that during that interview process that safety and the perhaps restructuring slightly of our Fairbanks Police Department is at the forefront of some of the questions that we are asking. We also need to, as a community, take a look at additional funding and creative partnerships to secure additional funding that might be needed to be sought in order to provide an adequate number of police officers on the police force. I think it's going to, I think we're dealing with some struggles in our community with working hard to build trust and confidence of the police department, to build confidence and trust with diverse groups and marginalized populations in Fairbanks. For a long time, I think we've been overdue for hiring enough police officers to address missing and missing individuals, as well as handling the cold case files. Anyone that has lost a family member would want resolution and would want justice for their loved ones that they lost. And so by us having a large number of open cases and not being able to alleviate that gaping hole in our law enforcement is problematic. I think we need to increase community partnerships, volunteers in policing, neighborhood business watch, community response teams that not only include law enforcement officers. I think we have put too much burden on law enforcement officers. We need mental health clinicians. We need social workers, substance use counselors. We also need transparency with our police department. So we've got a lot of things that we need to work on. They need training, they need education, but we also need to make sure we're hiring the right individuals in the forefront. We need a police chief that is willing to take the task and take a look at all areas that need to be addressed. And I think we can do this. Also, I would love to recommend a citizens review board and someone that, a review council that would be a composition of all of our community members, representative of our community, and that would be able to address the needs of complaints and issues that come before the city of Fairbanks. And be able to resolve those issues and those complaints. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Martine. Sue?
Okay, thank you. Gosh, that's a big topic. I will say that I am concerned, first of all, to make sure that we get a police chief that gets us, that understands Fairbanks, that understands Alaska. You know, if we have to hire someone from the lower 48, that's going to take a little bit of catch up. But from the lower 48, we're all seeing what the racial inequalities are with regards to policing. Like it or not, I think there's a concern. I would think that no matter where this new police chief comes from, that's got to be front of mind. And I think we need to be smarter about how we interact with our local citizens. And it just pains me to watch what's going on down there. But I would say that I would agree with Martine that, you know, the missing persons work they're doing recently has been great. I think the rape test kits that have been sitting on shelves for years are starting to be picked up at the state level. I'd like to see more of that take place. Because that effectively is part of, I think, the native underserving of a lot of the women that we know have been raped. I think that social services would be really a great helpmate with our police on calls. I would love to see somebody that's the second seat. Maybe they've got a drug counseling, or they've got some sort of children's services, or some sort of mental health ability to help the police, who are asked to do an awful lot. I think it gets overwhelming, and who knows what great things could come from that kind of partnership. Also, excuse me, if we had grants that would help with training for the sensitivities that we're watching unfold. I'm sure at a federal level we'll probably see some of those programs come forward, but I think we can do better. I would love to see a fully funded, fully staffed police force. That at the very basic would be my first ask. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sue. David?
Okay, thank you. Policing, it's one of the city's chartered, it's one of their core city services and obligations. And like the other candidates have said, I think that, you know, right now with Chief Reeder having stepped down for unknown reasons, I don't think anybody truly does know. It's to spend time with the family, so we're forced to draw our own conclusions. And it could be that she, having come from Anchorage, hasn't enjoyed working in the financial constraints that the city council has given her. The police force has at least 7 vacancies, and I've heard as many as 14. So yes, and in fact, the city's budget is being balanced right now with the unspent dollars from those staff vacancies at the police department. So but I think what the other candidates have said about ensuring that this new hire is sensitive to these issues that have been with us for decades or longer, and are resurfacing, you know, that chief has got to be very sensitive and have a track record of negotiating these, you know, these really important community issues. Police are not always the right responder when something's going wrong in a neighborhood or in a business. Maybe the police isn't the best, uniformed police officer isn't the best person to send. It might be some other group or person with a different skill set or a different training set. And even we could say that the police probably ought to have some different trainings to keep them up with the times. I've had a lot of experience with the Community Service Patrol. Over the years, the Downtown Association has helped to fund that. We, outside of a tax scheme, we collect money and give it to the city so that the city can run a community service patrol. Used to be, there was the Golden Heart Project, which was headed up by the hospital, and trying to look at it from the legal system to you know, state troopers, to Fairbanks police, to the housing and homeless coordinators, and bringing in members from the ICC, the Catholic Church, but just trying to say, what can we do to you know, all get on the same page about how we're dealing with underserved populations in Fairbanks. And in conclusion, if I'm not over time on this question, is that I often think that sometimes some of what might seem like police, you know, there's a lot of unmet needs out there in our community. And again, the city has a scope and can't do everything, but I think it's been underfunded and not maybe being as opportunistic as it could be and accepting help and partnerships and dealing with some of these issues. So I would definitely like to keep an open door and consider a lot of partnerships in this. Thank you.
Thank you, David. And to round it out, Charles Foster, sorry.
No problem. I echo the sentiments of my other candidates that there feels to be a need for a more diversified response given the state of the emergency that's called in. Unfortunately, given today's events and everything, it's kind of unfortunate to see that the police officer, the profession that's been seen by, well, numerous kids, when people, you know, when you ask a kid what do they want to grow up as, one of them is a police officer. Police officers are supposed to have a, you know, a positive image, but given today's events, what you see on, you know, the internet and everything has certainly tarnished that to a point where, you know, any certain individual will react to a police officer in fear, which is counterproductive to what they should represent. I play Dungeons and Dragons a lot. I equate them to the paladins. You know, the paladins are supposed to be the good guys and everything, but unfortunately in today's, you know, world, they're being more viewed as the anti-paladins, and that's really unfortunate to see. Therefore, you know, with everything that's been happening on the internet, it really brings it to my attention that it's very important to have any interaction documented, you know, body cams, you know, dash cams, everything, to basically record every interaction so that there's no misinterpretation as to what happened on the scene. I feel that, just like everyone else has said, that there needs to be an independent review board to evaluate any particular evaluation, especially those who may be treated more unfairly than those who would be. And going on the matter of basically, you know, our lack of, our shortage of staffing, excuse me, that's due to, you know, pay and everything. That might not be in parity to other locations that might pay. I can't blame them with that. That's been a very passionate issue of mine. Pay, living wages, everything. You know, that's yes, I'm very passionate about that, so I can understand that. I'll leave it at that. So thank you.
Thank you, Charles. Alex?
Thanks, Andrea. Let's move to a school board question. This will be the last question for school board. Many parents and guardians in Fairbanks are moving to virtual education this year. How do you plan to ensure that students, families, and staff have equitable access to the resources needed to move to this virtual environment, such as technology and essential services like special ed, safe spaces, and healthy meals. Let's start with Greg Cahill.
All right, I thought you guys were supposed to mix this up. You always start with me, and so I'm kind of put on the spot and have to think up all these answers, and I can't respond to all the great comments from everybody else. But I appreciate the question. And the question is about technology access. And those of us in Fairbanks know that it's inequitable. And if it's inequitable, why are we continuing to push this on our parents, to push this on our school kids, when they honestly cannot get on the internet? This is a community issue. We've known about this issue 10 plus years. We knew about it 4 or 5 years ago when the school district tried to implement personalized learning. Kids can't get on the internet, yet the school district keeps pushing this out, expecting our kids to be able to access the things that they need to access, and they simply can't. In this climate, so I'm gonna take a little diversion, but I think I can manage to get it in with the 3 minutes. In this climate right now, we see a situation where the kids are simply not learning. I mean, I applaud our teachers. You got to understand our teachers and our principals are doing the dang good job with what they've been given. But let me ask you this. Did you know that high school kids are online, are face-to-face with their teacher for 2 30-minute periods or something akin to that? We're talking an entire school day being compressed down into a couple hours of face-to-face instruction for the kids. You know, and I know, and everybody in that audience knows that our learning is going down the toilet. And I'm sorry to be so rude about this, but you just have to understand that kids are not learning in this atmosphere. We have parents struggling to get their kids online. We have grandparents babysitting at home with kindergarten kids, not being able to figure out the technology. So let me stress this. Number one is our kids don't have access. So what can the community do? We need to reach out. We need to make this thing, if you're going to continue in this vein, you need to make it equitable for everyone. And that's not going to happen in the short term. This is equivalent to the electrification of the United States back in the 30s and 40s and 50s. The infrastructure has to improve. You need to have companies that are willing to take a bit of a hit to give internet access out to, you know, the end of the Chena Hot Springs Road, or out the end of the out toward Haystack Mountain and those communities. You guys know, and everybody in the audience knows, that that's an issue. So we need to work within the community. Now, do you want to know in the short term how we can solve this? And we talked about this last night at our community forum for the League of Women's Voters. We need to get kids back in school. And I'm just going to say that as succinctly as I can. As the sooner we get our kids back in school, the safer they'll be, because their social needs are not being met. The community's needs are not being met. Parents can't work. Parents need to get they need to get out in the community and get the jobs done that they've been used to doing, and they can't do it in this current climate. So long term, we need to provide internet access to everybody in this community one way or the other. Short term,
Greg?
I'd like to see our kids get
Greg,
back.
I hate to cut you off, but we're out of time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving along, Brandon Boylan.
Thanks, Alex. Thanks for this question. A very important and timely question. This issue of equitable access, good access to technology and broadband across our community. I think in the long term, there's a lesson to be learned here that we need to expand broadband and cell phone service access across the community. There is inequities that exist now. They exist along socioeconomic lines. They exist along urban-rural lines, and we need to do something about it. I think that there's a place for a public-private partnership. We should incentivize companies like GCI or Verizon or others to try to expand their their networks of service across the interior to the extent possible. I think in the meantime, in the short term, we might establish for those at-risk students and those students without good internet access, hubs around the community that use good social distancing practices and allow students to have technical capabilities to access education. And, you know, let's keep in mind that we're watching our numbers. I know, you know, everybody has the goal of getting back to school face-to-face. We are watching the numbers. We're in the red zone right now. It's not looking good right now. But yeah, we do want to get back to normal. But until then, we have remote learning options. We can expand the homeschool program, the BEST program. And I think we can do a better job of getting those at-risk students the capabilities that they need in the short term while focusing on the long-term solutions to the problem.
Okay, thanks very much. Brianna, your response.
Thank you for this question. I think it's really, really important. And I would like to think of this as an opportunity to collaborate. It really takes a village to get our students to where they need to be. I would like to set a great example. My son, you know, he started kindergarten last year, and he struggled. That is something that I was not prepared for. You know, kindergarten is supposed to be a breeze. Right now, he's really struggling with the e-learning. And so we're making the choice to print everything off, and I'll work with him on the weekends. But like I said, collaboratively, how can we work together? How can we pull together the resources we have with different organizations to make sure that our students who have special needs and desires they're fulfilled? I think that's really going to be important. And we also have the opportunity right now to provide our staff, our students, and our educators the technological training that is needed to be successful, not only in learning, but professionally. You know, I was talking to my daughter about this, and she's like, it's time that we do something different on purpose, Mom, because it's not going to go back to normal. Even when we go back, it's not going to be normal, and we need to sit in our purpose and really flow. And I really appreciate that coming from a 7-year-old. She's willing to think outside the box because she's struggling as well. Like I said, I come from a rural community, and this is the reality for many of our rural communities already. And our educators, our staffs, most of us are already trying to find innovative ways to educate our children. And like I said, this is a great time to rethink what is really viewed as a valuable knowledge, because we have so many opportunities to help our children learn different, unique ways of living. And I think that is going to be really, really important right now. We see our nutritional services. I feel as though they have really stepped up to the plate. You know, when this first started, my children and we would go out to the buses and get their lunches and get their breakfast. And that was so exciting for them. You know, that was one of their highlights of their day. So I really have to give kudos to all the educators, all the staff, everyone who was working really, really hard to get through this. Because like I said, we really need to look at this and stay positive and work together. I think also for the safe spaces, I think it is time for us to think of fish bowls. Think of right now, I attended the Fairbanks Coalition Builders Safe, what was it? Conversations around race and equity. And that was, even though it was on Zoom, we were able to communicate, we were able to engage, we were able to connect. That's the most important thing. We were able to connect. And if we can provide safe spaces like that for our educators, for our students, for our staff, I think that will be very, very important to our mental health, our social well-being. There are ways to get around this, and it's time for us to stop being negative and really pull together to look at the hard work that we're already putting into this and what else can we do to make sure that we are providing a safe environment for our students. Thank you.
Thank you, Brianna. Thank you very much. Okay, Sean Rice, I should say, your response, sir, to this question.
All right, thank you. Boy, you guys come up with some really great questions. You know, you guys don't come up with easy ones. But I'm not going to say anything different that, you know, hasn't already been said. You know, to make it equitable, hey, you need to get back to face. That's what we need to do. But until we get there, some of the things that we need to do and need to remember that we need to do is to reach out to non-connectivity people. As we were told last night at the school board meeting, was we do have some teacher or some staff that are headed out, and they're trying to reach out to a lot of these children. We are, who was that? Brandon, one of his things was, having an area where we could drop off and pick up school assignments. We are doing that now. This is what we were told last night at our school board meeting. We just need to be able to encourage and get people out there and to continue to do this. And we need to be able to partner up with a lot of the different other community groups and get a lot of this out to the children, because they are able to reach the children that we can't reach. We are only one entity, but when we, like Brianna was saying, when we come together as a community and we start working together, the only people who are going to be able to succeed from that are the students. And that's what we need to do. We need to be able to work together, work with the community members, work with other groups, and get the resources that the children need. Another thing that we're going to be voting on tonight is our nutrition services. Like Brianna was saying, this is great. It opens up the door to ensure that these children are not going hungry. So they're not going to go hungry by not eating. They're not. When we work together, with each other in groups, they're not going to go hungry, for their education. So Cajo, I understand what you're talking about. I really do. I mean, I see everything that you guys are talking about. These are great ideas. And this is why, it takes diversity upon the board to be able to make sure that we are educating our students. I said it the other night, I wish, that people do vote for Brianna. I do wish people vote for Greg. I do wish, people vote for April, and I want people to vote for me as well too. But it's going to take all of us to be able to come together as a community for this education. I see one of my teachers right now, Montine Jackson. She was my teacher. So I hope I'm making her proud. I grew up in this community. I, went to school here. I really have a passion for this, because I remember when I was a kid, I was at the rescue mission, getting the clothes, getting the food. I grew up on 2nd Avenue. I know what it's like to be in a hard situation, and I know what it takes to be able to help those people out.
Okay, thank you very much. Last but not least, Tim Duran. Tim, you are muted. You are muted. Happens to me all the time.
Okay. All right, this is a wonderful question, because I think it encapsulates the 6 to 7 hour meetings that we've been having as a school board for the last couple of months, and last night, which we are continuing today. But I think it comes down to, what is good education? What do we want for our children? And that, for most children, for most people, that's a face-to-face connection. That's where you're really going to have that learning and teaching, which goes both ways, taking place. What I hope is somewhat of a blip in the big picture of things, that how do we address this the best way we can? And I think it's, again, those teachers, parents, students who are trying to reach out to each other, who are trying to build the relationships and take the extra steps to be creative and innovative how they do it. Technology is one of the ways we're using right now. It's a tool, though. It doesn't teach you. It's a tool to help with that educational process. What's wonderful, I'd say the silver lining of our situation right now, is the conversation that people are having, that schools are more than just content. It's much more about how we learn as a community, what we need in terms of looking at that whole child, for the whole needs of the family. And and trying to problem solve that together. There are no easy answers. What I've been thrilled about is the questions that people have asked and the concerns they brought forward. It's not just having technology available to everybody at home. Would that solve our problem right now? No. You know, parents, as a grandparent, I've been teaching our grandkids for the last 6 months. And the COVID success I feel is all of a sudden my wife and I said, oh, do you realize that one of our grandsons is reading? He learned to read this summer. And so, but it's challenging. And I have a background in it, but it's still challenging. I had to learn to do that. So I think it's what we want as a community, as a school system. We want people together, but we also want those options. There are some kids who learn best with the technologies. What I love is when a teacher finds a piece of technology and sends a student down to my office when I was a principal and said, get Mr. Doran, have him come in, we got to share this with him. And the kids were excited. They learned something new, but you put them in front of a computer. Not every kid does well on that. Look at our state tests. Those scores are not accurate because of the fact that some students may do well there, some students may not. And so it's the bigger question of what we really want for our students in education. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Andrea, over to you for the last question.
Thank you, Alex. So this question is for the assembly seats. And that question is, back in April, the Economic Development Commission was formed as a direct response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Many ideas to the commission were heard, from municipal bond packages to expanding broadband access. What proposals would you get behind that would make sure marginalized communities with the least resources are able to benefit from the investment put into the economic recovery? And let's go ahead and start with Brendan. Brendan Boylan?
This is for the Borough Assembly, right?
Sorry, my papers are very jumbled up here, sorry. Let's see. Sean Tacky, sorry about that.
No worries. I appreciate this this question. There's been an economic development committee for a while in the borough in its processes, and I served on it for some time. But for the Economic Development Commission, I would say that one of the best things that they could focus on is finding a way that they could develop broadband access for everybody. This was a question that was brought forward from the League of Women Voters regarding broadband, given the fact that, like, education, which was just brought up forward, you know, being able to have access to be able to communicate with their teachers and their classes. But not only that, but also seniors and everyone that's using telemedicine right now. It's very important to be able to have access to broadband. And we actually did not, there's not an actual way to actually get broadband to every single residence inside of our community. The best way to do it, and this is a solution I think we can find, so there's a balance between private and public sector economies. Much of like the way the cable industry is and the way that telephones have been, is that they actually subsidize a large portion of the infrastructure, and then the private sectors utilize either renting it out from the public sector or basically paying it back through the source of as a utility. The way that I think that we could actually utilize it is, instead of actually getting it to every single home, which would be very, very hard, especially how far spread our borough is, but being able to find hubs. So right now we already have school district buildings, we already have borough buildings, we already have libraries, we have these areas where people could go to be able to have access. But if you just spread it just a little bit further, you have one big large hub where you have GCI use fiber optic cable to the far off remote areas where there's a hub that people could go to. I think that would be one of the most beneficial ways that we could get more people connected, even though it is not a solution for in-person interactions at all. I mean, it's not going to suffice for a lot of medical treatments and a lot of actual in-person teaching, but it is a huge way that it's a wealth of knowledge. It's be able to access interacting with family members via Zoom, and also being able to go and research all sorts of things. The internet is a wealth of knowledge, and being able to provide that to our entire citizenry in some form or another is a very important purpose. So thank you. That's my position.
Andrea, you're muted, so we couldn't hear who you were calling on next.
Chris Lutke.
So on the assembly, I don't think I would advocate for any taxpayer funding of any kind of services like that. I think it's very important that people are allowed to keep their paycheck and decide for themselves whether they want that money to invest in broadband internet access or any other kind of program like that. I really think people need to turn off their screens more often and get out and do things outside. And I don't think the borough should be able to tell private property owners or private businesses, stuff like that. They can't be told what to do with their property. So as far as supporting different programs and stuff, I think it'd be nice. It's kind of a ideal situation. Everybody could have really fast internet, but it's just not realistic. I think some people, myself included, choose not to have internet. And if a company chooses to supply my area or not, that's up to them. I don't think the borough should really be able to force anyone to decide that.
Chris. Donald Crocker.
Thank you so much for the question, Andrea. Yeah, so looking at the economic recovery plan presented by the borough, two things really strike me. So the first is kind of to touch on what Sean brought up, which is improved internet access. So internet access does not just cover, as the school board member is talking, it covers, education for children, but it's so much more. People, especially in a COVID, in the pandemic, are using that to meet with healthcare professionals, see doctors, right? It's a jobs driver as well. People are able to work more, are able to, that have lost jobs, are able to find jobs through online services where when they are unsure how they're going to pay rent, right? Or unsure how they're going to get a meal onto the table. So ensuring that there's equity in broadband access across the borough is absolutely essential. And Sean brings up a really good point that we as a borough don't have the ability or the power to do that. So working in collaboration with private businesses in order to ensure that this access is available. The other piece of it, though, is ensuring that there's public hygiene stations, that there's places for people to take showers, to wash, to use the toilet. When COVID hit, I'm the president of the Breadline Board of Directors, and it was astonishing. We found that there's only about 6 or 7 porta potties available to the homeless or near homeless when the transit center and the libraries broke down. These are essential human rights and services, to water, to a healthy meal, to the ability to use the bathroom. And so we need to ensure that we are taking time and care for those populations that are the most vulnerable. We're about to go into the winter. And I am so scared for our homeless and near homeless populations because I don't think we have the infrastructure to meet those basic human needs. And it's something we really need to address, and we have to address it now before it hits 20 below. So thank you so much.
And now we're going to move on to Ryan and Renan.
I totally agree with Donald and Sean. I mentioned this at our League of Women Voters Forum the other day. The borough has, it doesn't own any infrastructure to expand broadband, so about the most it can do at this point is create a better working relationship between the public sector and the private sector to encourage expansion to more outlying areas of the borough. for broadband. I want to just say that's not forcing companies to do anything. It's encouraging or perhaps incentivizing them to expand. Nobody's talking about forcing companies to do anything. Another piece of the borough economic recovery plan that I really like is the Buy Local initiative. In my campaign, and coming from a background of small business, I realized the importance of buying local. And we've got a Buy Local pledge. Every piece of material we get for this campaign is from the local vendors who offer them. But I want to end this by saying that one thing we need to be careful about is when we're talking about urban renewal. Urban renewal is often another word for gentrification, and the people who can tend to suffer the most in that is our underserved population. So we got to make sure that any type of so-called urban renewal has a foundational element that takes care of our underserved population. Yeah.
Thank you, Ryan. That concludes all of the candidates for borough seats and their answers. So I will turn it over to Alex.
Yeah, I just want to thank everyone for their patience throughout this process and to congratulate everyone for staying right on schedule. So what we're going to do now is just move straight into concluding remarks. Each of you, you're going to have 30-second max for each candidate, and you could consider this your last opportunity within the context of this forum to just give a pitch and talk a little bit about why voters should consider voting for you. I do want to start with our school board candidates. Tim Doran.
To get that button. Okay, thank you. I'm bringing experience, I think, to the school board. I know the details and I know the questions to ask, and I'm not afraid to ask those. And my big thing is I want to empower students. And it's always been my vision to, for each student to become competent, confident, curious, caring, and contributing citizens. And I'm glad to see that actually several former students are running for municipal office, including Sean. So, you know, those are things that, what do we want for our children? What do we want, our vision? I'm a learner, a listener, and I hope to always be a team member that works together to encourage, to bring out the best in everyone. So thank you for tonight's opportunity. Thank you to everyone who's running and to all those who put this forum together. We really appreciate it. And it's a good role model for kids. So thank you for doing that.
Okay, Greg Cahill.
What, I didn't get to go first this time?
I knew you were going to say that, which is why I had you go second.
Sure. Greg Cahill, Schools District Seat F. I'm running for school board because I am passionate about education and I know we can do a better job. I taught in this district for 16 years. I educated thousands of students. I'm the most qualified candidate for the position because in my 25 plus years of education, I taught in private schools, public schools, volunteered for 4-H, Fairbanks Cycle Club, and more. I teach teachers. I read, evaluate, apply research. And I refuse to live my life in fear. And I can't stress enough that we need to open our schools and open our community. Folks in this forum testified right here that they're home teaching children and grandchildren. What we have to recognize as a public body is that not everyone is as fortunate as the people in this room tonight. They don't have the time, the resources, and the abilities to teach from home. So my goals are simple. Improve the quality of education in Fairbanks by focusing on a rigorous core curriculum, free of educational fads, and improving teacher quality. I'm the only candidate with 25 years of experience teaching middle school, high school, and university. I've taught science, math, statistics, and at UAF, I train the next generation of teachers. Greg Cahill, School Board Seat F, student-focused for a better future.
Thank you. I'm going to go to Brandon Boylan next.
Hi, again, I'm Brandon Boylan. I'm running for School Board Seat G. I would like to thank the Alaska Center again and its partners for giving us the opportunity to share our beliefs and our perspectives with the community this evening. I'd like to thank the audience as well for being so civically engaged and tuning in and listening to us tonight. I'm an educator. I develop curriculum. I analyze policy. I manage budgets. I'd like to bring that experience and expertise to the school board. And if I could just shift from being a school board candidate to a political scientist for just 1 second. Last year, the voter turnout rate was 18.7%. That is very low. And I would really like to see voter turnout rate increase this year. We have an important election on October 6th, and we have a very important election on November 3rd. And I would like to see as many of the community members as possible to exercise their right to vote. Do your homework and vote for the candidate you believe in. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Brianna Gray.
All right, thank you. I would like to thank everybody as well. This has been a great forum. I really appreciate the engagement that I am seeing from everybody. We are in a unique situation in regards to our budget and way of learning and just our general atmosphere. I know that I not only have the skills and experience, but I am also fully prepared and fully committed to put in the time necessary. So also please support your staff, your educators, your students. You know, it's hard right now, and please make sure you're showing them your support. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Sean Rice, 30 seconds.
Sean Rice, running for school board seat F. One thing, I'm not a educator. I'm not, you know, any of these other people. What I am is I'm a construction worker. I'm someone who stepped in where I felt, you know, I could help out. I've been on the NAACP executive board. I've been Juneteenth chair and vice chair. I've been the vice chair for the Latino Unitas del Norte. One thing that I have always done and I have always learned is that it is good to serve. And I have 12 years of experience, and I want to be able to continue serving and continue through this COVID and beyond the COVID, and bring back just a consistency that the people and the students need. Once again, on October 6th, don't think twice, vote for Rice.
Thank you. And then just moving to City Council, Sue Sprinkle.
Okay. My dogs are almost ready to bark. I'm sorry, so bear with me here. It's exciting to see everybody who is running for office do that, because this is a real put yourself on the line, get yourself out there. But the energy is great. I really, really like what's happening. And I look forward to hoping that I can sit in a city council seat and bring my energy. I'm a doer. I show up. I'm a fast learn. And I want to make reasons for people to come downtown and bring their energy. I want that foot traffic. I want reasons to stay and play downtown. I want them to feel safe. And I think that it's going to be a tough year coming up. I feel that that's a reality, but you know, I don't want to make this a doom and gloom. I think that we need to get some big ideas out there. You know, as I know snow removal and policing is important, but I really want to see us bring families downtown. I want to see us bring new business downtown. Am I running out of time? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
but,
yeah. Unfortunately, these are really just 30-second quick
okay.
pitches.
Anyway, so I want to thank Brandon for reminding me to tell people to vote. That's what we got to do, vote. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Okay, Chuck Foster.
Oh man, well, public speaking definitely isn't my thing. I guess I should say, dang it, Jim, I'm an engineer, not a politician. I mean, I'm more comfortable dealing with numbers and everything. I mean, the city budget has less pages than my Dungeons and Dragons book. I enjoy Dungeons and Dragons, and I enjoy crunching numbers because that's the way I am. This definitely isn't easy, but you know, people keep telling you to vote, and please definitely vote. But if you got the moxie, the will, run for public office as well, because it feels like we haven't had people that really represent us in the first place. So it's wonderful to see everybody doing so. So vote, and if so, run for public office as well. So thank you.
Thanks, Chuck. Montine Jackson.
I am passionate about our community, and I believe in Fairbanks' rich, strong, welcoming community spirit and the culture of Fairbanks, the Golden Heart City. If elected, it will be important to in service to seek and listen to all community voices as we resolve complex and often competing community challenges and look to the future. We must work together across multiple sectors to find solutions that will increase our ability to build, grow, and expand opportunities that are sustainable for all that choose to call Fairbanks home while maintaining a balanced budget. We have a tough road ahead of us, and I'm seeking your support. I'm running for City Council, Seat F. Thank you so much, and good evening, everyone.
Thank you. David Vandenberg.
Yes, I too am a candidate for City Council Seat F. And over the years, I've taken inspiration from people, and I have worked with many diverse partners in my time downtown. Local government is very important to me. I think it's got a huge impact in our neighborhoods and in our businesses. I've been an active participant in and around City Council for over a decade, and I can tell you that an under-resourced city falls short. People say that taxation is regressive. Well, when you get stuck in your driveway because the snow plows haven't come, when you get stuck in the street because the snow plows haven't come, that's regressive too. And I will ensure that the city is playing its A game with the services it provides.
Great, thank you. And then our Borough Assembly races, Donald Crocker, 30 seconds.
Thank you all so much for those that have put this on. Thank you to Alex and Andrea for being wonderful moderators. My name is Donald Crocker, and I'm running for Borough Assembly Seat D. I have been a community leader and organizer for the last 10 years in this city, in Borough. I've built a reputation on working well collaboratively, approaching difficult conversations with an open heart and an open mind. We at this time are about to face a lot of really tough decisions. And as a borough, we are working with a limited budget. We need a candidate who is not willing to play political gamesmanship, but is willing to collaborate with their fellow borough assembly members, as well as the rest of elected officials, small business owners, educators, and residents. So please get out and vote early. And if you can't, go out, vote October 6th, wear your mask and be safe. Thank you.
Thanks, Donald. Let's go to Chris Letke on the phone.
So by this point, it's pretty obvious that I am on the opposite side of everyone on these issues. There's one thing I need people to understand, though. All of these programs and services that we want to offer through the borough or city or school district, they are funded at the borough level anyways through a property tax. I believe that is a form of theft, and that is a form of force. So forcing people to pay for services they may not use is wrong, and I will not compromise on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Going over to Sean Tacky.
Hey, thank you, Alex. I'm just going to remind everybody, I always try to be pragmatic and listen to everybody. I'm going to promise you I'm not always going to agree with your positions, but I like to say that I'm going to listen to everybody. I come in there with confidence and a serious curiosity, which I can attribute partially to my principal, Dorn. Thank you. So building that curiosity, the striving to want to learn, to listen to everyone's position. You might not always agree with me, but I'm going to bring every position or every fact that I can into any of my decision making and make it based on that. Community oriented, understanding small business, and also knowing that taxation isn't theft. We all need resources to be able to provide services for all of our community members. I'm right there. There's a balance, and I'm the guy to listen to you. So thank you.
Thank you. And last but not least, Ryan Van Renen.
Thank you for having me. Our climate is at a tipping point. We have a criminal justice system and an economic system that is tilted against poor people and people of color. And we face the scourge of hundreds of missing and murdered Indigenous women in Alaska. This year, everyday people from all walks of life are stepping up. either as candidates, activists, or voters to change the status quo and to give a collective voice to our marginalized people. Whether in elected office or outside of it, I plan to remain part of that collection. In whatever capacity you're able, I hope you join me. The problems we face are bigger than any single person. By working together, however, we can affect the true reforms we need at every level of our government and our society. Thank you for having me again.
Thanks to everyone again. It's been an honor to be with you, and I want to give the last word to.
I'm sorry, Alex. You faded out, so I am going to believe that you said you wanted to give me the last word.
That's right.
Yeah. Again, I wanted to reach out and say to each and every one of you, thank you. Despite what seat you're running for, what this represents to all of us collectively is a dedication and commitment to this community. And that should be something that you admire about yourselves, because we certainly do admire that about you. Collectively, no matter what seat you're running for, they all work together to come out with a successful outcome. So great meeting all of you, and thank you for this experience.
Oh, dang it, Mother.
And thank you so much.
She did my closing. Well, that's why we're related. That's where I get it from. So I want to invite all of the people listening, all of you candidates, Chris on the phone, please stand up if you need to. Check out your body, because I've been sitting for like 2 hours. So if you need to stretch, if you need to yawn, like I need to yawn so bad. But of course, now that I'm talking, it doesn't want to come out. So that's okay. But stretch out. You at home as well, stretch out. And also give yourself a pat on the back, candidates. A round of applause, candidates. Thank you so much for doing this event virtually, sitting down for 2 hours, you know, keeping up to speed with our questions. Thank you so very much. I know this is like very weird kind of platform, but you all did wonderfully. We're on time, which is excellent. So I want to say again, thank you, and pass it on to Ruth for our closing and some important info to take with you as you enjoy the rest of your nights.
Right. I also want to extend a special thank you to all the folks following along with us from home. You know, it's the end of a long day. It's heartbreaking that we can't gather, that we can't do this in person, and it takes so much more extra energy to commit to sitting and staring at your computer screen for 2+ hours. And so to me, it feels like such an infinite act of love for all of you to gather here, to give your attention, your energy, but especially the folks at home. To express their care and their commitment to their community by following along here online. We also want to express our thank yous to the Alaska Center, Planned Parenthood Votes, Northwestern Hawaii, Native Movement, Alaska Public Interest Research Group, Native Peoples Action, the Fairbanks Climate Action Coalition, Nanook Diversity and Action Center, and Fairbanks Greater Chapter NAACP 1001. These are all incredible organizations that believe in a brighter future for Alaska and believe that dialogue and communication like this is what's going to get us there. So if you want to reach out for any other resources or information about any of the partner organizations that put this together, their websites are accessible through the Facebook page, and they're all deeply excited to speak more and engage more with each of you candidates, and especially our folks following along at home. So well done, everybody. Chikanekali, thank you so much for being with us. And Alyssa, do you want to throw us those new election dates and info?
Yes. So exactly why do we have this forum? Because we need you to vote in the municipal elections. You hear me? I'm talking to you, people online. You need to vote in the municipal elections. Do you understand what I'm saying? Do you know when the municipal elections are? I can't hear you. October 6th, Tuesday, October 6th. Now, I'm a post here.
You're muted.
Right while I'm on a rant. Okay. I just posted the links that you need to look at all the municipal races the deadlines that you need to register by, when you can vote early, and did you know that you can vote by mail or by email in the municipal election? So if you are at higher risk and do not want to go to the polls, you can apply for an absentee ballot to come to you in the mail and email. And both of those links are going to show you exactly how to do so. All of these candidates have said it at one point in time, the municipal elections is just as equally as important as the generals. These are the people that are deciding taxes. These are the people that are deciding public services. These are the people that are deciding important task force and conversations that we need to advance all the different things that we want to see in our community. So please, 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 please vote in their municipal elections and encourage 5 friends of yours to vote in the municipal elections. I just gave you 2 other options of which you can do this that doesn't involve going to the polls, but if you like going to the polls and you have the means to keep yourself and your poll workers safe, by all means, Tuesday, October 6th. Repeat after me, Tuesday, October 6th.
Alyssa, can I say
you
something?
You cannot time me. I'm
not timing you. Can I say something?
Yes, ma'am.
Candidates here, of course, Alyssa and everyone online. Alyssa introduced me as her mother, and listening to all of you, especially on the school board, I want you to feel proud of yourself because you're part of the village that raised her. I am a single parent, and I remember taking her with me at 7, 8 years old to the voting booth. This is the result of that. Having conversations and exposing her to events like this. And it makes me so proud, almost to tears. Alex, you were part of her, you were one of her professors. This is the result of, this is how you get young people involved. Bring them out with you to vote.
The blessings of working with your parents. Thank you, Mom. And thank you everyone again for joining us. We are concluded for our candidate forum. Please, if you have any questions, you can reach out to any of our partner organizations here, or you can reach out to the candidates themselves if you had a particular question. We apologize, we just did not have a lot of time for Q&A, and we did get some questions from community organizations and leaders within the community, and we just didn't have enough time, but we definitely want to hear with you, and we definitely want to open that conversation up for engagement further with the candidates that you want to hear from even more. So thank you, thank you, thank you so much again to all of our candidates, our moderators, and all of you watching at home. We hope you enjoy your night. Go drink some water, eat a really nice, fulfilling meal, and start talking to your friends and your families about what you heard tonight. And always make a plan to vote October 6th, Tuesday, October 6th, okay? Okay. All right, bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Good night.